like one of them is just like, did you say you don't really know football that well? I was like, yeah, I'm not a professional. It's my job. They're just like, yeah. So it goes like GMs, Jason, and then everybody else.
We also pay homage to the king of B movies, Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Oh,
Nicolas
no.
Cage, very popular. Yeah, he makes several appearances throughout the weekend. I am this insufferable in person. This is not performative. So like.
So, you know, Casey, there's something that you once did that I really appreciate, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned it.
Oh, please do tell.
Do you remember when you took me to the New Year's plans that you and your friends had? I was staying in South Carolina. I met up with you, and then we drove to North Carolina, and we just had a great New Year's weekend.
Yeah, I remember you snored a lot, but what else?
That's hey, not just me. Not just me, right? There were others.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, you had pulled out your back and you were on muscle relaxers, and
yeah. I was nervous about having a beer. I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah,
but your doctor friends assured me it's fine. Go ahead.
Sure.
Anyway.
Yeah. They're great enablers.
Anyway, you know, in honor of that tradition, I think I was inspired by that, and we created this group of friars who would get together around New Year's. And me being in upstate New York, we have access to a wonderful little house that we can kind of get together on the lake. And the friar that we're going to interview today is one of the core members, one of the inaugural members of that group, and that's Brother Jason.
Brother Jason, welcome. Glad to have you here.
All right, thanks for having me. Yeah, joy to be here, and I can confirm that Tito's snoring is something like something to behold.
I tried to be the best at all things that I do. Okay.
The scary thing is you
are
weren't.
something.
You were like a solid second or third place, which is really impressive. And
so let's see, Aaron was also there.
I woke up in the middle of the night once, and it was like a den of bears. Like everybody had like some breathing apparatus, and it was not helpful at all. And like the three other friars in the house, the house was shaking. It was
oh my gosh.
It was something.
Yeah,
these are things that are not in the brochure when you join the friars.
No.
Yep.
I remember that happened one time. I was on a retreat, and they decided to put us two in a room, which is the only time I've ever had that happen as a friar. And the friar snored the entire night. And I'm a very light sleeper. I don't fall asleep easily. So for 2 straight days, I didn't sleep. He just snored the whole time. I was like, please get me out of here.
Yeah, that's aggressive.
Listen,
no, I remember because I lived with Tito at Siena College. And you could hear him from the hallway, down several rooms down from the hallway.
That's not my fault. You know, the rooms you don't hear much when you're in the room in the next room over, but you do hear plenty in the hallway from people's rooms.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, I'm going to still say that's your fault, but yeah, I think that's a design flaw as well.
I knew it was going to be my future. My dad was a heavy snorer. Yeah, it's genetic. It's not my fault.
Well, it's one of those things you don't expect because, when you join the friars, you tend to, not sleep in the same room with someone. And so you say, oh, do you snore? Oh, I have no idea. No one's ever told me. People can hear you from the hallway. You're going to find out.
Right. Yeah.
I knew I snored. I wake myself up sometimes.
Yeah. So, Jason, you found this now. You are our youngest ordained priest.
That's right.
I believe you might be the youngest solemnly professed, maybe still. I'm not sure. How old are you?
I am, 30. I'm 30.
All right.
30, okay. Yeah, so making us all feel old.
Still the baby in a lot of ways, although, I've worked with a lot of college students, and so to them, anything above 22, you might as well be 80.
Sure.
So,
exactly.
I was still born, as the Gen Z says, you were born in the late 1900s, which kind of just goes right through your heart, so it's
Working with high schoolers is rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting when I was at Siena because I had a room in the dorms. And so it was interesting because at the friary, I was the youngest, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'd walk across campus and then I'd be the oldest person in the building. It was a very odd configuration because I would go from, that swing was so dramatic. So.
Well, I don't know if this was your experience, but when I first entered, it hit me pretty hard, where a lot of dinners we were talking about colonoscopies and what pills you were taking. Did you ever experience that right away?
Organ recitals, yeah,
I don't know
I've
if you
definitely
had
been there, or just cultural references where I'm like, I have
Oh my gosh.
no idea. Like, God love him. One of the friars that I live with is like the boomerest boomer who ever boomered, and so like, there's just things that just go way over my head where I'm like, I don't get what you're talking about. Or, like, still hasn't figured out like electronic banking, like.
Oh.
He's still astounded that like checks can be deposited via your cell phone, and I'm like, I've been doing this for a decade. Like this is not cutting edge technology here that we're talking about. But,
right.
Yeah.
Probably the same friar who's got the phone with the torch on in his pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Do you
like
tell
calendar, like a paper calendar, like on a book,
gosh.
and writes like the things in the book, and
Yeah.
Now I want to know your opinion on this, because I see the light on in friars' pockets a lot, and
yeah.
I like immediately go, hey guys, your phone flashlight is, and I let them know immediately, because I can't be associated with people who are that like
nothing to do with their like concern for their battery life, but it's just like, all about like, you are a poor reflection of me right now, so if you can fix that.
We're walking together on this sidewalk. People are going to put us together. I need that light to be off.
Yeah. Well, it is so true when you join the friars. Like, you join the friars, there is no longer Jason, Tito, or Casey. They reflect on you, and you're like, hey, guys, behave yourselves. What are we doing right now?
No, very true. Very true. No.
Do you find that difficult? Yeah, you're newer in formation. I think you have lived with peers. We all have, and we went through formation. But then you're kind of out in the real world, and you realize, oh gosh, I'm the only one in my 30s. What's that like?
Yeah. I mean, it can be tough sometimes. I think that it's interesting is sometimes with all the diversity, because there's so much diversity in the friars. There's guys that come from all different, class backgrounds, racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds. They, friars that joined when they were really young, friars that joined later in life, friars that had all these different jobs before they entered, all that stuff. So there's so much diversity, and I think sometimes the toughest thing is actually that age gap, that generational gap. And so, yeah, sometimes it is tough. It's nice because, like, if you're a friar, you're hopefully there for the same reason, right? Like, you're trying to follow Christ, but you do have to, I think, for me at least, find peers both in the friars and outside of the friars where you can sort of hang out and talk about things. That's why this thing that we had that Tito was referencing at the beginning here, where we get together for New Year's, it's been a nice little tradition, and that's been something that I've really looked forward to, because it's other guys around my age that entered formation about the same time as me. It's just so refreshing to hang out not only as brothers but as friends. You know what I mean? Yep. And there is a difference, right? Like there's guys, like, I love all the brothers that I live with. I would do anything for them, but there's just some guys that you just don't have the same kind of interests or whatever. And so it is fun when you can kind of intentionally create that community. And so that's been something that's been awesome. I look forward to that every year, is going out to the lake house and just hanging out. We don't even really do anything. We just sort of hang out, watch movies, watch bowl games. Eat a lot of appetizers. So it's fun.
Bro food, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We
Not
pay
a vegetable
homage
in sight for like 5 days. So it's good.
we also pay homage to the king of B movies, Nicolas Cage.
Yes.
Oh,
Nicolas
no.
Cage, very popular. Yeah, he makes several appearances throughout the weekend. So
yeah, and
is there a favorite?
I think it's all about what's the latest, like what's the newest weird thing that he's done, and it's never it's never the big budget,
low budget. There was one I liked where I don't know if it was last year or the year before, where it was like some horror movie where he had no dialogue. He literally did not say a single word throughout the entire thing, and he was fighting some
That's
like
acting.
animatronic Chuck E. Cheese-esque like haunted possessed like robots or something, and it was as ridiculous. Like, I'm actually selling that plot short by that short description. Like, it's actually more absurd than that. Like, but it was, so stuff like that. There's one kind of friar that goes who's not fond of that kind of genre or that thing, and so, but he gets overruled more often than not. So.
I think messing with him is part of the fun of it too. Like, he can't stand Nicolas Cage.
He like actively hates it, and so but it's a good time for the rest of us.
Sounds like me. I think you can watch the absurdity of, like, I would actually love to watch The Wicker Man. I've never seen it, but I've just seen the clips, and it makes no sense to me. And I think if you had a beer and you had some fun guys with you, it's just like, what's going on here?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean that's sort of the spirit of it, right? Is like we're just kind of hanging out, we're watching bowl games and watching these just ridiculous movies and and catching up too, hey, how's ministry going? How's the fraternal life? Like things like that, and we pray. We'll pause the movies or whatever at morning and evening prayer and get together and pray morning and evening prayer, and then just kind of go right back to it. And so it's a lot of fun. I look forward to it every year.
Yeah, so we like to make fun of the Friars a little bit, and obviously the Friars can be out of touch sometimes, but I also know that the Friars of different generations can be extremely meaningful. And I know one was for me, when I was in discernment, there was Brother Romuald, who just a lay brother, and he just worked around the house. Everybody loved him. And I remember I was still in college, I met him, and he sat down and he started telling a story. He's like, did I ever tell you the story? And the guys just cut him off. You're like, Romuald, all your stories. We're so tired of them. And he turns and he looks at me. He's like, well, he hasn't heard them. And he starts telling me the story. And there's just something so precious about him. Sure. And to see that he was loved in his 80s and he was a part of a group. Do you have any experiences or friars that you looked up to like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's one friar that comes immediately to mind when I was a novice. I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, and struggling with the novitiate. But there was one friar there, Ken Osborne, who was just he was an awesome guy, this just intellectual giant. He's a sacramental theologian, wrote a bunch of like these really impactful books, and he was a teacher. He was a president of FST, Franciscan School of Theology, at one point, and just a brilliant guy, but just very he loved hanging out, and he was really old, really frail. In fact, he died the year after I left. He died on Good Friday, of the year after I left. But he was incredibly important to me. Always loved talking with him. And there was this one time, and he would have this kind of same thing, right? You heard a lot of the same stories sometimes. He was a great conversationalist, though, and never, if he was, if there's some sort of silence in the conversation, he would be able to fill it, and usually fill it really well. But there was this one time where we were talking. We were sort of, me and my classmates were sitting there, and we were talking, and then there's that silence, and he sort of jumps in and he goes, when I had my first heart attack, which tells you something, right? So when I had my first heart attack, he said, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die. And I can honestly say that the thought that filled my mind at that moment was, thank God for my Franciscan vocation. And it was just such a powerful thing as, a young novice to hear. And I remember going on retreat later that year, and we were on this retreat, and I remember kind of hiking and walking, and that story came to my mind because I was wrestling with some things, and just made me realize is gratitude at the heart of my vocation right now? Like, is gratitude at the heart of who I am as a friar? And if it's anything else other than gratitude, then I need to examine that. Like if this life isn't just sort of a response to the goodness of God, right, and like the good things that God has given me, then like what's wrong with that picture, right? And so like that's been something that's just really foundational. I think about that moment a lot. And he had a ton of things like that, right? He was such a good man. Every time I go back to Santa Barbara, spend some time in front of his niche, right? Like they have in Santa Barbara, they have the niches, and I just spend some time. I talk with him a little bit, pray with him a little bit, but yeah, really, really meaningful friar to me. Sitting on my shelf is actually a couple things that he gave me, and I just kind of think that it's kind of in this little prayer corner of mine. So very, very important, impactful friar for me. I was very close with him, and very much respect him and look up to him.
Yeah, nice. Sometimes I think my own classmate Tito, just geriatric. I look up to him as a great wisdom figure.
I'm like a year older than you.
Let's not sell that short. It's at least 2.
It's like a year and a half tops. Anyway,
both of you guys got me, so be careful.
That's right.
Anyway, but the Friars have been a part of your life long before you actually joined them. I mean, you went to like St. Bonaventure University, right?
Right.
Were there friars there that really kind of impacted you and really kind of inspired you?
Yeah, and it's funny because like when I went to St. Bonaventure, I had no intention at all of joining a religious life. Like it was not in my mind.
No one ever does.
Yeah, right. It just sort of hits you, and so like I didn't even know what a friar was, anything like that. And I went there, and I was just really kind of captured by the Franciscan charism, but I was also captured by the example of the friars, and kind of their life together, and they were real with one another, right? Like they were sort of like they were not kind of like weird monks that were locked in a basement praying all the time. They were just like this real, genuine people, and so that really inspired me. And it's just to see the interaction between them. But yeah, there's a couple guys that were really, really close. I was just ordained this past weekend, and so there's a couple guys that were there, and it was just really powerful and really impactful. And there's this one great picture. One of my buddies from college who was there at the ordination, one of my roommates, and one of my best friends. He took a picture of me embracing like this one of the guys there, Ross Chamberlain, who I was close to, and it's like just a great picture. I'm gonna have to maybe print it out and frame it, but yeah. So there's definitely there's a lot of guys there at Bonaventure and at Mount Irenaeus that definitely meant a lot to me, and were really impactful and really just really crucial in my discernment process and just my growing as a human being, I would say. Yeah.
Well, we'll get to your ordination in a second. I realize we're burying the lead here, but talk about Ross Chamberlain, because we're going to get him on the show eventually. Give the people a preview of this man. Yeah, no,
he's going to be a great interview. I'll tell you that. He's larger than life figure, so he's going to be a great interview. But yeah, it was really cool because he was a younger guy. He was in his 30s there when I was a student, and had a lot of energy, tried a lot of different new things, within campus ministry. And I was just kind of like, and college in general was a place where I was, faith to me was becoming less of an obligation and more of something that, was really kind of inspiring to me and life-giving to me, and something that I really wanted to pour myself into more intentionally. And so, yeah, Ross was somebody that was just really about kind of providing different opportunities and new opportunities for some of the students there. So that, it was really fun. He was really accessible. So Jeffrey Jordan, kind of same thing. Peter Schneibel was great. So, and then the guys at Mount Irenaeus were awesome too. Kevin Christo especially, and Dan Riley and Lou McCormick and Joe. They were all awesome. Yeah. But Ross, he's a great interview. He's going to be a lot of fun. I promise that's something to tune in for. Yeah, he's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, you said accessible. Yeah, I just think of him sitting on the park bench smoking a cigar. And just not the image you'd expect. And there's a lot of things about Ross. You're like, friar or cosplay? This is not fitting with my image of what a friar is.
Yeah.
Probably has a glass of whiskey at times, probably cussing up a storm being from Boston. It's like, well, this is a character.
Yeah.
Well, he is chaplain to circus folk and other migrants, which is just, when we get him, we got to ask him stories about that, for real. Because, honestly,
I've seen a picture, I think, of him blessing an elephant.
Yeah, that is honestly, I know what I'm saying about myself. That is a dream job for me.
That's on brand. Yeah.
That's right. Freaks and geeks.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your ordination. So you're just ordained just a couple days ago. The oil is still wet on your hands. Do you still smell like chrism?
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I don't know when this interview is coming out, and I'm not afraid of my mom hearing it anyway. I don't think she knows about the Maniturgium tradition, and so I'm going to give her that on Mother's Day, because I'm going to be celebrating Mass for the first time at my home parish growing up on Mother's Day. Traditionally, it's like the first Mass that a priest celebrates, but I'm holding off a little bit. And so I do have the Maniturgium like literally right behind this computer right now, and so I do still smell the chrism, but yeah, it's.
We'll explain that for my mother who didn't get that. So a lot of people probably don't know it.
When a priest is anointed, or when a priest is ordained, they anoint his hands, right, with chrism oil, and it's a really fragrant oil. And I remember our liturgy professor, one of our liturgy professors, Father Fragamini, who's just kind of a
character,
small in stature but giant in sort of the world of liturgical theology, and
theater.
Yes, and he gentlemen, don't wash off the chrism because traditionally sometimes you have the lemons to cut the oil and stuff like that, and so I didn't want to do that. But the Maniturgium is something where you wipe your hands of the chrism oil after you're anointed. And so it's traditionally given to the mother. It has my name on it, the date of the ordination, and it smells really fragrant because I had wiped that oil fresh off my hands. So so I'm really excited for that, and especially on Mother's Day will be really, really cool. So, but yeah, it's a beautiful tradition that sort of kind of invites the family into the priestly ministry, right? And so. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm terrified that it's going to end up under like a pile of dusty red books, which is kind of, kind of how some of my family operates sometimes. Where it's, oh, this beautiful thing, we'll put it on the coffee table for 8.5 years, but yeah. So I'm really kind of excited for that, and really going to be proud to present her that Maniturgium at the mass at my home parish. I'll have a lot of people that I knew growing up. So yeah, it'll be cool.
Well, I understand you had your first mass last week. Tito said he was there and added a little flair to your first mass. How did you feel about this? Explain
I hear
what
that
happened.
he was the ringleader of conspiracy there, but yeah, at this mass of Thanksgiving, I guess Tito had gone and he went and got these. He had heard a story about friars either a deacon or a priest first time preaching, and they held up scorecards after the homily. And so its spin on that is he went and he got these pieces of paper and some Sharpies, and so passed them along the row with all the other friars, and they all wrote numbers on it. And so when I did the kind of the reverence at the recessional, bowed to the altar and turned around, they all held up these scorecards. And so it took me a second, because I was looking out, and then I looked at them, and it took me, and people say they could tell when it registered, in my face, like my face changed when it registered.
It did.
So, but it was really funny. It was a really kind of funny, like fun kind of, touch to the mass there, where it's just like, okay, there are my brothers, So it was fun. It was cool.
I was inspired by a pastor who I had done some summer assignments with when another friar friend of mine had just gotten ordained a deacon at his first, official preaching mass, the mass that he officially preached at as a deacon. The parishioners actually were the ones who handed out scorecards because they heard he was going to be preaching. And I thought that was such a great idea. I held on to that. And this was the first opportunity. I was like, oh, this is perfect because Jason's going to love this.
I did. No, it was funny. I was told too that you did it like 3 minutes before mass. Like you went and like you went back to the friary, grabbed that stuff, and came back just like really quickly. And so
really quickly.
Which makes it even
you think
funnier.
Tito would plan this weeks ahead of time? No.
That's fair, yeah. But no,
I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this thing.
Yep.
I'm curious.
Exactly.
I'm curious who the Russian judge was. Did anyone give you like a 4.5 or something?
Yeah, there was like a 3. No, I'm just kidding. I think it was actually they were pretty generous. They were pretty generous.
Okay, that's nice.
I don't know what they dinged me for, but there's some 9.5. I think Tito was a 9.5. There's a 9.6666 or repeating or.
Okay, sure.
So like there's some very precise grades actually. There's like a 9.78 or something like that. It was so like I got granular. I didn't see the feedback exactly, but yeah, I'll have to go back and review it. So.
Well, what did you think? What was the first mass like? Because I know that I was kind of terrified. It's like I knew how to do it, but I was like, what's going to go wrong?
Oh, I was super nervous. I mean, you practice masses, right? Like you go through that, you go through the missal over and over again, but you're like, oh, this counts, like I'm an ordained minister. Now this, this is for real. And it was really cool. I was terrified at the beginning, and I think I was really shaky. I was really nervous, but after a couple lines, I sort of got into it, and then it felt, more and more comfortable. I didn't have to preach, thankfully. There's a tradition in some areas where somebody else preaches the first mass, and so I asked Aaron Richardson, another friar who I live with and I'm tight with. So he preached it and he did a great job. So that's like something off my plate, which was nice. But yeah, it was really wild, especially when it came to the words of institution, right? When you're consecrating the elements. And I remember, like, there was this one time, like, I remember grabbing the chalice, and this thought flashed through my mind of, I'm picking this up, and it's wine, and I'm going to put it down, and it's not going to be wine anymore, right? Like, the next time I put it down, it's going to be, like, which is still mind-blowing. I still get chills thinking about that. Like, it's just such a cool thought, and such a gift, such an honor to have, and so... But yeah, it was just an awesome moment. It was at St. Camillus, which is just a wonderful parish, a really cool, really supportive community there. So tomorrow for the Feast of the Ascension, I'm going to be celebrating for the first time here, and then this weekend I'll celebrate at my home parish. So yeah, I got a lot to I still need to get into a rhythm, a little bit. It's still kind of it's not quite natural to me. It still kind of has that feel of like, wow, okay. I'm doing this and it's real, like it's a very surreal feeling right now, but I'm looking forward to sort of getting into the rhythm of things. But it's just what a privilege, what an honor. I hope I never lose that sort of awe that I had,
Sure.
when I'm up there presiding, is because it's just such a cool, blessed feeling.
Yeah. But I will say, I'm going to give you some feedback. You did a great job, first of all.
Thank you.
You're
Live on air.
You said
Let's hear
you
it.
said you were
Just like we
shaky at the
agreed to
beginning.
when I gave you the 20, so that's good.
That's right. You said you felt shaky at the beginning. That didn't come across at all.
Oh, good.
As a matter of fact,
Better
your
actor than
introduction.
I give myself credit for them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Your introduction was like really good. It brought us it highlighted what was happening, brought us into the mass, and prepared us for the liturgy, and it explained like why you weren't going to be preaching. Aaron would be preaching. It was really well done.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
And other people commented like it looked like you looked good up there. You looked confident up there.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's all fake.
Yeah, no, I know.
Smoke and
I
mirrors.
was very nervous. I was,
Yeah.
but to your point though, it's important when you're a presider, like you're leading the people in prayer, and so I think it is really important to try to embody that, and so that's I think if that came across at all, I'm humbled, because that's all prayer, because I was really praying up a storm the night before. I did not sleep much, like I only slept a couple hours because I got up at like 4:30 and I was just nervous about it. But yeah, that's all the Holy Spirit guiding me. So, but I appreciate hearing that, because that is thank you. I really do appreciate that. Yeah.
I don't know, Tito, what your experience is like, but for me, the first one was very powerful, but it was performance. It was like, please, God, let me say the words right. Let me not make a fool of myself. And as I got better at it, I got used to it, and I could start praying with it. And I really felt like into it. And then you do it so many times that you just start doing it and you forget to pray. And then you come back to the middle. Like there's that kind of tension on both sides between performance and over performance. And I think that happy medium is, it's okay if there's a mistake. It's okay if it's just going to go as it goes, because I'm just saying this prayer. And I think that's a beautiful thing when you get to that point.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, when I first started, I was also terrified. My very first Mass, I got to be honest, as I was doing the prayer of consecration, I was filled with doubt. Like, do I really have the authority to do this? Am I really...
The magic come out of my fingers.
I mean, it was a little bit of an imposter syndrome, maybe, at the time. And I remember talking about that with one of the other friars. And I told him, I was like, I doubted. I was like, do I really have this? And he said, yes. He said, you do. Not just because you were ordained, but also because as a community of believers, we believe you do. And that sense of community, that sense of fraternity, and of that our faith in each other helps us lift each other, really impacted me when he said that. I was like, oh man, it was a very powerful statement.
Yeah. I think too, like something that's important, like I try to avoid language. Maybe this is my, Franciscan sensibilities or whatever, but I try to avoid language that says like, oh, my first Mass or whatever.
Right.
Or it's just like, because it's Jesus's Mass. I just take care of it for an hour, right? Like,
Sure.
it's not like I try to avoid like doing ownership of it, because it's like, it's really like Christ is working through me for this, for the good of the people, right? And you're sort of, when your heart's open to that, then that's I think where it all happens, right? And so, but yeah, it is very humbling. Like to that point, what you said about the community. One of the friars mentioned to me is just like, what was really powerful for me was, after I was ordained, like before I was ordained, I had these practice masses, right? And then after I was ordained, like it was, like these masses were like legitimate. Like I was ordained, I was a priest and stuff like that, whereas before I wasn't. And he said like the faith of the people, that was different. Like it was categorically different from before and after ordination. Is just like, it is like a really powerful thing, and just like that understanding of the community is such a crucial thing when it comes to our role as priests within the church.
And as you say, as not just a priest, but a Franciscan priest. And I think there's some spin on that. There's a charism to it. So obviously we are not simply sacramental machines.
Right.
And we know that we are priest, prophet, and king. And I think we bring a little bit something to that. What does that mean for your priesthood? What are you hoping to do? What is your approach? Anything that you dream about right now?
Yeah, I think, I mean, one is just I'm just still processing, what's happened, but I think for me is like the importance of being specifically a Franciscan priest is, how does this, like Francis had such a fascination with the incarnation, right? And
Hmm.
like not like other, Catholic theologians don't, like hopefully any Catholic theology, healthy Catholic theology has that, but you know, he had such a Eucharistic worldview where a lot of
Hmm.
times if you look at the writings of Francis, they almost always mention, if sometimes at the beginning and the end, the importance of this, reverence for the Eucharist and the importance of the Eucharist, and anything he talks about the priesthood is intimately tied with that sort of that role of the priest within this kind of Eucharistic assembly, right?
Hmm.
And so to understand Francis, I think Francis saw the Eucharist as kind of the continuation of the incarnation. And to understand that my role within that and within sort of salvation, God's invitation to me into salvation history, in a small way, is just really powerful and really, overwhelming, I think, sometimes. But yeah, I think that's always stuck out to me when it comes to, Franciscanism and the Eucharist, and sort of, and again, how the priesthood fits into that is this very incarnational worldview and this continuation of the incarnation. How do I embody that, both at the liturgy, like liturgically, but just
Hmm.
in general in my life? How is
Hmm.
how is that sort of embodied and reflected in my own living?
Yeah, it's not just in between in the name of the Father,
Right.
Son, and Holy Spirits.
Right.
It's when you leave the church, it's out in the world,
Right.
it's with the poor. That's the Eucharist is continuing to pour itself forth because
Right.
there's the Lord. I love St. Francis. He talks about caring for the vessels of the church and even caring
Right.
for words because it
Right.
may not even be the words of Scripture, but it might contain the words of Scripture. So we must put those in
Right.
holy places that,
Yep.
that everything can be a vessel for the Lord. I
Right.
think it's beautiful and so needed in our
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I totally agree. Yeah, and it's very humbling, right? Because I think for me, it's just gonna be this, hopefully this constant state of reflection of like, okay, how am I doing that well, and how am I embodying that as a Franciscan and now as a priest?
One of the things that, kind of going back to something that Casey had said earlier, and kind of touching on what you were saying about holding on to that, is there are parts of the mass plenty of parts of the mass by now that I've begun to have memorized, right? Long parts, I still read it, and I read it because it helps keep me intentional. It's very easy. I'm not sure if other people do this, but it's very easy for me, even if I'm saying a prayer out loud, if I'm doing it from memory, my lips will keep moving and finish the prayer. My mind will wander.
Right.
But by actually looking at it and reading it, it keeps me grounded in the moment and allows me to keep praying on it. Whenever my eyes start to wander, I go, nope, I gotta keep my eyes on the page. It's
Right.
about not moving into
Yeah. Automatic or cruise
yeah,
control.
automatic, yeah, exactly, into autopilot. It's about keeping it
Right.
intentional.
I do that too, like even with like liturgy of the hours, right?
Hmm.
Like we have the Benedictus and the Magnificat that we
Yep.
pray, every day.
Right.
And like I have that memorized. I could say it right now from memory, but
Hmm.
I open to it, and I physically touch it to remind myself of, okay, this is a kind of a proclamation from the gospel, and
Right.
it's important to sort of read it and be kind of attentive to it. And so yeah, I love what you're saying, because I think that's important. And I'm sort of glued to the missal right now just because like I want to make sure that I'm doing it right. But like yeah, that's a good kind of thing that I'll keep in the back of my mind, is like, okay, how am I sort of kind of intentionally sticking with these prayers in this liturgy right now, and to be fully present to it, right? And yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's great.
So what are you doing now? So you are assigned where? What's going on? How are you going to live your life right now?
So right now I'm in Buffalo, New York. That's where I was assigned as a deacon. So, but I've been reassigned to Joliet, Illinois. So I'll move there over the summer. So I'll head out that way. Yeah, sad to leave here. Sad to leave Buffalo. It's been announced that all, the friars just in general are leaving this ministry. The friars have been here since 1858 here in the city of Buffalo,
Wow.
my hometown. Proud Buffalonian. So, it's tough from that perspective. So we're sort of walking with the parishioners, a lot of whom have known the friars, their entire lives. And so it's also not, on a personal level, my family's close. My grandmother and my grandfather are not in good health, and so it's been nice being able to see them more often. So, letting go of those things and embracing sort of the new requests of the province and friars and moving out to Joliet. So I'll be there over the summer. I'll move there over the summer. It's I don't know much about the parish. It's mostly Spanish speaking, which I'm a little nervous about. I speak like very rough conversational Spanish. I'll probably get my way through a mass in Spanish, but certainly not fluent. It's not natural. So I'm going to really have to step up my Spanish speaking game. But yeah, I'm excited for the challenge. And if the province, if the provincial administration made the decision prayerfully, then I'm going to fully embrace it. So yeah, looking forward to that. But at the same time, sad to be leaving this behind.
Yeah, I think it's hard as
it would
it
an
is for
experience of
you.
obedience right away.
Yeah, right. So and but that's part of our life, right? And so, but it's not easy. It's definitely something to pray with, but yeah.
I think as hard as it's going to be for you to leave Buffalo, I think you're going to really like Joliet. Did you ever visit it as a student living in Chicago?
Yeah, when I was in Chicago once or twice, I didn't spend much time in the parish.
Okay.
I spent some time in the friary, which we're not there anymore, in my understanding.
Right.
So we moved out. So I don't have much of a frame of reference. I know some of the guys that I'll be living with, but none of them very well. So there's a lot of unknowns. I was also asked to be the vicar of the house, which is a new leadership position. So
welcome.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I might be more nervous for that than ministerially, but
Sure,
yeah, so
for sure.
That'll be a new experience as well as sort of having a leadership position within the house and caring for my brothers, and so yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I'm honored that the province has this much trust in me. As a newly professed, newly ordained guy, that's a lot of responsibility. So I'm going to try to live in that well.
So I'll just say this about the parish. It's an incredibly vibrant, lively parish. There's just so much going on. And so from just a pure energy and enthusiasm perspective, I think you're going to fit in great, but also they have so many youth and young adults who you are very good at connecting with. So, and I could see them like saying, we need to get someone young there, someone who can really connect with the sort of the second, third generation now of people who've lived there. And I think that's going to be your congregation, really. Within the congregation, within the flock, that's going to be your focus. And I think you're going to do great.
Yeah, thanks. No, and like I said, I am excited for the challenge. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, now the most important question.
Yes, sir.
Is there a Bills bar there?
Oh, yeah.
Have you already searched for one?
It would probably come as no surprise to those who know me that I have already looked into it. And there is one about half an hour away. That was literally no joke. That was one of the first things that I looked up. So diehard Bills fan. I did look that up very, very early on into learning where I would be going. And so there is one about a half an hour away. And it's outside of Chicago. When I was living in Chicago, I think Tito, you went with me once.
Delilah's.
To Delilah's, which was a Bills bar that I really love going to. It's a little rough around the edges, which is kind of right up my alley. And so,
Sure.
So I would go there pretty much every Sunday for the Bills game. So now I'm going to be working on Sundays, so I don't know how often I'll be able to drive out and check those out.
That is the question. Have you thought about this as a priest now? What's your plan for Sundays?
Yeah, I have. Again, I don't know if I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I have looked up the mass schedules and sort of trying to do the math because it's an hour earlier. It's Central Time. And so for a 1 o'clock game, it's going to start at 12. There is, I think, if I remember correctly, there's either an 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock mass in English. So I think it's 11. So I might be able to make it, if we have Sunday ticket or something like that, I might be able to catch the games. But yeah, that time change is going to be tough. Because we'll see. I'll do my best.
Sure.
I've overcome challenges before in watching those games. And so,
big steps.
There's times where I'm like, people invite me to something on a Sunday, and I say, no, I have another religious obligation outside of mass, so I have to be at that. So,
well, for the uninitiated, explain one, your love for the Bills, but also Bills bars, because I think that they are something to behold.
They are, yeah. So Yeah, so diehard Bills fan. I've been a Bills fan my whole life, and so it's a rough life. So Book of Lamentations, almost positive, is written by a Buffalo sports fan. But it's it's tough sometimes. But yeah, diehard Bills fan. Really follow them. Really believe in them. Try to catch every game. You know, if you ever want to talk about Josh Allen's completion percentage against the blitz, I'm your guy. So. You know, I get. I mean, football is I'm a big sports fan just in general. I love sports.
Mm-hmm.
I love hockey. I'm a lacrosse fan, big lacrosse fan, which is kind of a niche sport. But the Buffalo Bandits are playing for the NLL championship, so I've been following them pretty closely too. But football is my love. Football is my first love, and so diehard Bills fan. Just football fan in general. Like I'll watch a game anytime, anywhere. But yeah, the best place to do that obviously is with a community. Like with so many other things, it's just fun to do that with a community, and especially, as a friar, I've lived all over the country, and like joking aside, one of the first things that I do when I'm moving to a new place or find out that I'm moving to a new place is look to see if there's Bills bars around, because it's fun to sort of connect with my community outside of my community, right? So it's like, again, people with a shared interest. A lot of people are from Western New York, so you sort of get caught up on the Western New York sort of whatever talk and what's going on in the hometown and politics, all that stuff, and so it's kind of fun. But it's usually an experience. Bills fans are known for their enthusiasm, shall we say, their energy, and so that definitely comes through watching it. And this place, Delilah's, that we were talking about before. They have a thing where you can buy a shot for everybody in the bar for $1, right? So if there's 100 people in the bar, you spend $100 and everybody gets a shot. And if you buy everybody a shot, you get to make a speech, And so like everybody, like the bartender will be like, all right, everybody, shut up. And so sometimes the speeches get really like lewd, or like just like not lewd, but like what is the kind of whatever, crude is probably the better one.
Mm-hmm.
Crude, and there's swearing or whatever, but it's a lot of fun. But me and another friar, Angel, if you've had if you should have him on too at some point. But
yeah,
we would go once in a while and talk about like, we should buy a shot and be like, all right everybody, sing it with me, Salve Regina. Come on, guys, I know you. So we would just kind of joke around about doing something like that. But no, it's always an experience. I love bringing people there. I brought friars there that are not Bills fans. Tito went for like a half of football once, and it was just too many people, and too rowdy and too loud.
Too rowdy.
And so he left,
sitting down doing something for a long period of time. Yeah, not his thing.
Yeah. Oh no, you're usually packed in and standing. Like you are not sitting. Okay. You're not sitting, and there's usually chants and different things going on. So it's not a passive experience going to a Bills bar and watching a Bills game. So
there's no way you're going to get a Dominican doing this. Yeah, nothing against the Dominicans. This seems like a Franciscan thing.
Not happening.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah. So. I just don't like crowds. So like if it's quieter, I'm like, let's go.
There was one time, not this last season, but the season before, where the Bills were playing the Dolphins in December, and it was like this. It was Saturday. It was a Saturday night, and it was absolutely packed. I mean, like shoulder to shoulder packed, and it was a great game. And the Bills won it at the end, and it was so much fun going there. But I lost my voice for like 3 days. Like I did not have a voice. Because I was so into it. It was such an intense game. It was so loud, but it was so much fun. So much fun. So, but no, it was awesome.
All right. So now I need to.
Go ahead.
I need to know, Keon Coleman. What do you think?
I think he's going to be a very popular guy.
He's going to be so popular.
Being a good football player would also be helpful to making him a very popular guy. But he already sort of has this personality where it's just kind of, he's kind of, goofy, doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of really funny clips about him. He has prototypical like X receiver size. I don't know. There's some concerns about his ability to separate. And draft analysts that I know, like, that I read, have said that probably his better fit's actually like a big slot. But we'll see. He has a great personality. He's a lot of fun. So, obviously the Macy's jacket type of, his introductory press interviews,
amazing,
sort of the famous one. But they released another one. I don't know if you saw it, but they had this one conversation with him pre-draft, where they talk about, what are your pastimes or whatever.
Golf.
And, he said, golf, bowling, something like that. He's just like, I'm not a good golfer unless Tiger Woods and Tiger wish he was, or something like that. Like he said some like really funny thing, kind of self-deprecating. So that'll play really well to the market. So I think he'll fit in really well with Josh Allen with that personality too, because Josh is sort of the same guy where he's like, like low, like great player, obviously one of the best in the league, but he's just sort of just very kind of blue collar, kind of, big goofy competitor, right? And so so I think he'll fit really well.
Well, I think going back to what you're saying about the performance, he's going to do fine because, he had one of the slower 40 times, but when it came through like going through the obstacles and catching the ball, he had one of the quicker times, and they were saying, he trusts his ability to catch the ball, and he's apparently phenomenal at getting open when the quarterback's in a scramble.
Yes.
And I mean, that's Josh Allen. So
he's good at the scramble drills and stuff. And you're right. The three cone time was very high. He only ran a 4.61, which is kind of on the lower end, but I mean, even then, to run a 40-yard dash in 4.6 seconds is pretty fast. And also that's around the same time as like, Devontae Adams. There's been some, Cooper Kupp, I think, ran a similar time. So I don't get caught up too much in the 40 times, but his route running, sometimes he kind of rounds out off routes, so it's less the speed and more of the precision route running. But you're right, to the point of he's really good on sort of broken plays, and he's just, he's a phenomenal athlete. So he's a big body, phenomenal athlete, and I think that could play really well. And obviously you could say the same thing about Josh Allen, right, which was the Bills took a chance on him and it's turned out great. So so hopefully it'll turn out well. I'm a little worried about the Bills' wide receiver depth just in general. I would have liked to see him take another swing in the draft at a wide receiver. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think as long as you have Josh Allen, like, you're going to be competitive. I think next year's going to be the all-in year again. They're clearing out a lot of cap space this year. They're taking on a lot of dead cap this year, but next year they'll have a lot of space. So I think next year's going to be the all-in year again. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So, listener at home, I'm glad we could get to this point, because this is the true Jason, where we're just in the weeds, and we could go on for hours and hours.
I am this insufferable in person. This is not performative. So, like, people absolutely, like, especially around draft time, like, that's all. Oh gosh,
every stat, every pick.
Yeah. There was one time where I was talking with the Friars, and I was just like, I was giving my opinion on something. I forget what it was. I know that comes as a surprise. I would give an opinion on a football thing, but but I was giving, and I'm just like, but that's me. I don't really know football all that well, which is true. I'm not a general manager. I'm not a coach, anything like that. But like, one of them is just like, did you say you don't really know football that well? I was like, yeah, I'm not a professional. It's my job. So they're just like, so it goes like GMs, Jason, and then everybody else, and he puts his hand up the ground. So,
I just think it's hilarious. Tito and I started a fantasy league a couple of years ago, and we were all living in Chicago. And I reached out to Jason. I was like, yeah, Tito and I are doing this thing. Football. We'll be a part of this. And your response was, oh man, I'm kind of in recovery right now. Like, I used to play in 6 leagues at once. I don't want to get back into that.
It got pretty bad. Like, it was, so it's just like that's not me anymore. So, but yeah, no, I
have an idea. I've had this idea for a couple of years, and I think the two of you guys are the ones to do it, and maybe we'll get Steve Keen. I don't know.
Okay.
I want to do the combine as Friars. I want to go through the 5 drills in habit and see if any of us got any, like, can we beat a lineman in something? Can we beat Tom Brady in the 40-yard dash? Can we beat some scrawny wide receiver in the bench press? I got to beat somebody in something.
Tito beat me, like, when we were at Siena. There was some like promotional thing at a Siena basketball game, and it was basically you had to run a suicide, where it was just like you go and you run and pick up, I don't know what was it? It was like some plastic pasta dish.
Yeah, exactly. It was like play spaghetti thing.
And I felt pretty confident about my chances going in, and Tito won. So like
we were pretty neck and neck. Yeah. And you slipped on the last turn, and that's where I was able to pull ahead.
No, Tito had that great, like, again, the 3 cone drill, right? Like, he's king on cone.
There you go.
Like,
he's shifty.
Great like the agility tests very high on, but yeah, I did. I slipped on the last one, and that sank me. But yeah, no, Tito won it fair and square.
Well, this year This year we're going to do it somehow. 3 of us, let's get together. Let's film us doing that. I want to see who's got it, each one. What do you think you're winning?
For the absolutely humiliating vertical jumps that we are going to
Right.
put up.
Oh my gosh.
Can I lose like 40 pounds before we?
No one's stopping you. Of course you can lose 40
yeah,
pounds.
we're not preventing you from.
Can we wait until I've lost 40 pounds to do this?
Well, you got to do it by next January. That's when we're going to do it.
Sometime in the next couple of years, So
okay.
Yeah.
Get to it.
Because I ain't doing this when I'm in my 40s. I'm already going to hurt myself doing it now at 35. So let's do it now.
Let's do it right with next year's combine. All right.
I think Steve would crush all of us, though.
He probably would.
For sure. We need some humility.
Like an effortlessly athletic person that I'm just so like. I played basketball with him, and it's like I had to cover him, which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's just
like,
impossible.
It's just not even a. And so like he's just like this effortless. He had the closest thing to a dunk that I've seen in a pickup basketball game. Like, like he sort of it was a tip in, but it was like it was way closer to a dunk than I could do. So I was very impressed. But yeah, he's just
and I'm
like
sure just with the nonchalance and humility of just like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, oh no, you was a great pass. It was all about your pass.
Exactly, yeah. Right, like he could take like an ISO and just like all this stuff, and he'd be like, oh yeah, you made that. I'm like, dude, I was on the other side of the court. Like I wasn't.
I was playing decoy.
I was tying my shoe on the sideline. Like, like you'd be like, yeah, no, it was all you, bro. Like it was all you. Your moral support got me through. All right,
got me through. Gotta love the brothers.
Steve. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us. It's been wonderful to catch up with you. I hope your transition goes well, and praying for you. Your first couple of masses, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun being on here with you guys. I'm a very poor millennial in that this is like I think this is only the first or second podcast that I've ever done. So, I have to hand in my millennial card, I think. But no, this was a lot of fun. Thanks so much for having me on. Thanks for your fraternal support, your fraternal love. Appreciate it. Keep those prayers coming.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Yep.
So, Tito, you lived with Jason for a year. What did we miss?
I think I lived with Jason 2 years, once in Chicago.
2 years.
And then,
okay,
and then once here in Siena. What do we miss? We didn't talk enough about the Bills. That's what we missed.
It was only a quarter of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, really, we could do honestly, we could do a whole episode just talking Bills.
A whole spinoff.
Yeah, and if you wanted to do Buffalo sports, forget it.
Oh yeah,
between the Sabres and the Bandits, all of it. Nah, he can talk Buffalo sports all day long.
Well, the one thing I guess we can talk about now that we have a video podcast, sorry for the people at home, but one of our connections, Jason and I, is that there was a woman at St. Camillus that often confused us because they thought we looked exactly the same. And I guess he didn't have facial hair at the time, and I guess the way pictures were taken, I don't think we look that much alike, but it's just hilarious how this still comes up, where someone came up to me a chapter and like, oh, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't think we've seen each other. What we were talking earlier. Like, no, that was the other guy.
Yeah. There are, so a few people here have made that mistake too. Yeah, where I've pulled up like a video of yours or something like that. And they're like, oh, is that Brother Jason? I'm like, that's not, nope.
Just generic white guy. That's what it is.
I don't know if it's that, but it's usually people who don't really know you guys, right? It's people who've seen you casually or at a distance or something like that.
Yeah, I would hope not. My mom's like, "Oh, look, you look so great in this picture at St. Bonaventure." That's not me, Mom.
No.
Well. Great to have around. A very intense guy, very dedicated guy, someone that we were blessed to have with the Friars. Hope to live with him someday. Hope his first ministry works out.
I think it will.
Tito, who are we doing next? We got some big people on the plans?
We have a few. Have we decided who's next? I don't remember.
There's a few. I'm not sure. We had one ghost us, so
we did.
With the Friars and technology.
Yeah.
But we're glad to be back. Friars, if you are watching, which I know you're not, let us know. We're going to get through it all eventually. Mm-hmm. So we'd love to tell some great stories.
Yep.
We still don't have a sign off. So Tito, what's our last word?
Bye, Liz.
There we go.